One, two, 1, 2. What's poppin', y'all? How's everybody doing out there? I hope everybody's out there enjoying their morning, getting this Sunday cracking. But I want to holler at y'all about this Canelo Alvarez fight last night. And I want to figure out who could really beat Canelo. Because Canelo was a monster last night, right? He did his thing, man. Let me know in the chat what you thought of Canelo. And I'm going to break it down, why Canelo did so good and who could beat Canelo. Because Canelo's looking unbeatable right now. Like, he's out there running the show and ain't nobody giving him no competition. So we're going to break it down and see who could beat him. Because I actually know two fighters that I believe could beat Canelo. Man, shout out to everybody in the chat. Yasin, he said should be 1-1 versus Triple G. I agree with you. I thought Canelo should have lost the first fight. And, maybe Canelo, or it could have been a draw the second time. But I thought Triple G beat Canelo the first time. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Like, what does it really what does it take to officially beat Canelo? Because Triple G, I thought, did enough. He dictated that fight in the first one, and he landed what I thought was the more powerful punches. I thought he landed more punches in that first fight. Shout out to Ramen Danny. What's poppin'? My folks. Oh, what's up with you, man? So let's talk about the Canelo versus Smith fight from last night. I thought everything basically happened as I expected. I didn't think Smith was an elite. I didn't think he was an elite super middleweight, even though he was the champ. He's not a top-notch fighter like that. Do you guys think Callum Smith was an elite or top fighter? No, I don't think so. He's a solid fighter, but he's not nobody that's up there in the upper echelons with Canelo or the Triple G's of the world. So even though Triple G ran through Callum Smith last night, it was a very good performance. He demonstrated his dominance. Ride the gamer. What's poppin' with you, folks? But Canelo did what he was supposed to do in that fight. He was facing an inferior fighter, and that guy, Smith, he went the distance with some fighters. If you look at some of his past fights, there were a lot of unimpressive fighters on there that went the distance with Smith. And the fact that Canelo wasn't able to knock out Smith, that kind of sends a red flag to me, because that's a super middleweight that he wasn't able to knock out. And so he moved up from middleweight. But, Canelo was just coming off of beating Kovalev, and that was at light heavy. So Canelo's like bouncing around the weight classes and getting W's all over the place. So since he was unable to knock out Smith, I wasn't as impressed with Canelo's victory as I was with Triple G's victory, because Triple G also faced an undefeated fighter, and Triple G knocked him out. I mean, he put him out, and it was bad that whole fight. And that was an undefeated fighter. So Canelo and Triple G faced an undefeated fighter. Triple G was able to knock out his opponent, and Canelo wasn't able to knock out his opponent. Let's go to the chat real quick. Let me see. Anything like nothing. Oh, act like nothing. I can't barely read with my glasses on. All right, damn, Callum Smith and Kovalev fought the same fight, shaking my head. Yeah, Man, Smith had all that reach and did not use it to an advantage. And I thought the only way Smith could have put up a good contest versus Canelo was if he used his reach. But when I looked at his previous fights, he never used his reach to his advantage in his previous fight. So I didn't expect him to change versus Canelo. I expected him to do the same thing because he was undefeated. He's like, if it works, why try to fix it? And he did what I expected, and the outcome, I thought it was going to go the distance, and I thought Canelo was going to have a convincing victory, and that's basically what happened. Let me see, Ramen Mate. You're my homie, dog. Whatever you want me to say for life. My boy, Ramen Danny, in the building. Let me see. Psych Ward said, who can beat Canelo? Triple G already did, in my opinion. LOL. Second fight was much closer. But he's at a point in his career where he never has to take another fight he can lose. Canelo deserves it. I agree with you, Psych Ward. So let's talk about that right now, okay? Because I believe there's two fighters. There's two fighters out there that I think could beat Canelo. And I think one of them, I think, would obviously beat him where the judges wouldn't be able to steal the fight from him. I thought the judges stole the fight from Triple G the first time. So when you look at it, when we're thinking about like who could beat Canelo, in my eyes, Triple G beat him the first time, just like Psych Ward did, but the judges gave it to Canelo. So can you beat Canelo in a close fight? I actually don't think you can. If it's close, I think it's going to go to Canelo. So that's why I only think there's two people that can beat him. And so let's look at it real quick. So Triple G gave Canelo everything Canelo could handle, right? And I thought Triple G won the first fight, and I thought the second fight could have been a draw. But I thought Triple G definitely won the first fight. But Triple G, let's look at the analytics on why Triple G was able to give Canelo so much trouble. Triple G has 41 wins. He was undefeated when he fought Canelo the first time. He was 41-0. And he had like 30, let's see, he probably had like about 30 knockouts or a high percentage of knockouts. Right now, Triple G is 41. He has 41 wins and 36 knockouts. So only a few of his fights he didn't win by knockout. And two of those fights were to Canelo, the draw and the loss. So that would be 38. So there was only three other fights that he didn't knock out the opponent. And Triple G was able, what did Triple G do in that first fight? In both fights. Well, mostly the first fight. What did Triple G do that gave Canelo problems? He made Canelo back up. And that's one of the things. That's how you're going to beat Canelo. So when people say Jermall Charlo, can he beat Canelo? When they say Demetrius Andrade, can he beat Canelo? No, I don't think neither one of them could beat Canelo. I didn't know Charlo was as old as he is. He's 30 years old. He's as old as Canelo. I thought he was a younger dude. So I don't think Charlo or Andrade would be able to back up Canelo. And if Canelo's coming forward, he's going to beat you. Canelo ate up all that ground and was coming forward, and he was able to beat Smith easy. So let me go back to the chat real quick. Psych Ward. Let me see, acting like nothing. It's crazy how Callum just turned into an entire different fighter when he fought Canelo. Pity patter jab, super cautious, and seemed like he didn't come to fight. Yeah, Canelo did that to him. Canelo was popping him every time. He had him scared to throw a punch because he didn't want to get counterpunched. And he was like, I don't think he knew that Canelo had such a good jab. I was surprised Canelo had the better jab in that fight. That just blows my mind when a fighter has an 8-inch reach advantage and the other fighter, hits you with more jabs or has a more effective jab in that fight. Make sure you guys like this video for me. All right, so Charlo and Andrade, I don't think they would be able to make Canelo back up. Canelo would walk him down and eventually wear him out, and he would outpoint him if he didn't knock him out. So even though Charlo is 31-0, he has 22 KOs. I think it's going to take somebody that has a higher KO percentage to back up Canelo. If you're not a power puncher, I don't think you're going to be able to back up Canelo. And you got to back him up to win. If he's backing you down, you're not going to beat Canelo. He's a little too elusive, and he's too powerful of a puncher, and he's going to zap your energy. Let me see. Chan said Earl Spence when he jumps up to Canelo's weight. Yeah, that could be a good one, because Spence don't back up. Spence don't back up. So, yeah, that would be an amazing fight. But this is the fighter. Let me tell y'all. So, I think Triple G is one of the fighters. I got two fighters that I think would beat Canelo. Triple G, but I think Canelo is, Triple G is, he's 38 years old right now. So, I think Canelo is going to let him get a little older. He's going to wait another year, let him get to like 40 years old, and then he's going to fight that third fight. It's no rush right now. Canelo says something that we all got to pay attention to. He said he wants to unify. He wants to get them belts. So he's going to go after those champions. And he was just at super middle. And Triple G's the middleweight champ right now. And I don't think Triple G wants to give up all those belts he has to come up to super middle. So I don't see Canelo and Triple G fighting anytime no soon. No. He not beating Canelo. Oh, he talking about Earl Spence. This is the fighter. Let me know what y'all think about this. So I think Triple G is one of the fighters that can beat him. But actually, if they fought again, if that was the next fight, I think it would be a close fight. Neither fighter would get knocked out. And it would go to the judges, and the judges would give it to Canelo again. That would be my prediction. So I don't think they're going to fight. The fighter that really could beat Canelo, that I think Canelo is going to fight eventually, is David Benavidez. So let's talk about David Benavidez real quick. David Benavidez is 23-0. He's a super middleweight, so that's what Canelo just fought at. Canelo just became the super middleweight champ. David Benavidez is 23-0 and has 20 knockouts. So there's only 3 dudes that went the distance. He's knocking out everybody. And David Benavidez is only 24 years old. So he's the younger of the two. He's the taller of the two. He's way bigger than Canelo, but he has the power to make Canelo back up. I think he's one of the only fighters that Canelo will not be able to back up. Because even in the second fight against Triple G, he kind of made Triple G back up a little. Like Triple G wasn't walking him down as much. There was a portion of the fight where Canelo was backing up Triple G. But this dude, David Benavidez, he's so big and strong. Like he's not as tall as Smith, but he's kind of similar in frame. He's more solid. He's not as lanky as Smith, but he has the power to keep Canelo from coming forward, and that's going to be the key. And since he has such a high knockout percentage, I think he would be able to do damage. Like, it would be hard for the judges to cheat him because he would be able to do damage on Canelo. So what do you guys think about David Benavidez being able to beat Canelo? That's the number one fighter that I think could beat Canelo. All right, let me go back to the chat. Let me see. Canelo is in his prime and Triple G is not touching him. It would be a completely different fight. It would depend on what weight class, young one. It would depend on what weight class they would fight. If Canelo went back down to middleweight, that's where Triple G is the champ, middleweight, then no, if they fought right now, nah, it would be the same as the first two fights. Triple G is gonna be right there. It's gonna be a close fight, and I would probably give the edge to Triple G if they fought in that weight class, because Triple G's been sitting at middleweight for a while. He's just been holding on to them belts, and Canelo's been bouncing around in weights, and it's eight weight difference going from super middle, which Canelo just fought, going down to 160, which is the middleweight. So I would, if they fought right now, the next fight, I would say that to my eyes, Triple G would win the fight, but I think it would go the distance, and the judges, like the first fight, would give it again to Canelo. But David Benavidez, that's the one. Like, I don't think they would be able to deny David Benavidez. Y'all probably not familiar with him. You got to watch. Let me see what fight it is y'all need to watch of David Benavidez. Watch how he runs through. I got to see who this fighter is again. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me see. Y'all got to watch the fight. David Benavidez versus, let me see. Who was it? Where is it at? Anthony Durrell. I think Durrell might have been the champ. And watch how David Benavidez knocked him out. Like, he didn't go the distance. The fact that Canelo did not knock out Smith is a red flag to me at super middleweight, because he hit Smith with everything. And Smith was an undefeated champion, and you know these undefeated champions, they rather die in the ring than get knocked out. And Canelo was unable to knock this dude out. And you got David Benavidez, who's another undefeated champion, but could punch a lot harder. Like, if David Benavidez fought Smith, David Benavidez would knock that dude out. No question about it. Absolutely no question about it. Let me see. Young One said he's too strong right now. I think you're talking about Canelo. But Canelo would go down in weight. And when you go down in weight, you know, you got to adjust. He's not just sit. I think since Triple G is just sitting at middle and he's not going up and down, he would be the stronger of the two. In both of those fights, in both of the Triple G versus Canelo fights, it was obvious that Triple G was a stronger puncher. If you don't know that, then I don't know what you were watching, bro. It was obvious that he was a stronger puncher. But Canelo is more elusive, and he was the faster puncher. And so if you were talking about speed, like that's his advantage over Triple G, but not power. Triple G is still a harder puncher than Canelo. And they both proved it. They both fought. They're both coming off of fights versus undefeated champions that never tasted loss. And Triple G knocked out his opponent, Canelo. I don't think he even knocked down Smith. Did Smith even get knocked down that fight? Or he maybe got knocked down once, but he couldn't knock him out. And he hit him with everything. Let me see. RC Mikey says, my mom loves your video, 13-year-old verse. Oh, that rap battle. Okay, I appreciate that, RC. Yeah, I used to, before I got into boxing, I used to do rap battles. So I got like 80-something million views on my channel, probably like 75 million of those are rap battles. I just barely started doing the boxing videos. Tell your mom I appreciate that, RC. All right, let me see. Jimbo Slice, my guy, what's popping? Let me see. Triple G did a great job in the first fight by establishing the jab. Yes, Triple G's jab is strong, is powerful, and it was very effective in that first fight. I agree with you, Jimbo Slice. Let me see, by establishing the jab. But in all seriousness, in both Triple G fights, I really didn't see Canelo in any danger, bro. Canelo took Triple G's best punch and vice versa. Yeah, I agree. But the bigger scoring punches, neither one of them rocked each other. Neither one of them was in danger. But when you just look at the quality and the power of the punch, it just looked like Triple G was landing stronger punches. Like, you just got to look at it but you're right. Neither one of he didn't buckle. Canelo, but just because you don't knock somebody out doesn't mean that you're not landing more powerful punches. Just because you didn't make somebody buckle doesn't mean that your punches aren't more powerful. Like, it just seemed like Triple G was sitting down on his punches, putting more power behind it, where Canelo had to make his punches faster. So he was relying on his speed. So he wasn't really sitting down on his punches like he does when he's coming forward. And just the fact that Triple G was backing up Canelo that first fight, nobody could punch as hard as you can when you're backing up. You could punch harder when you're coming forward because your weight is behind you. So just the fact that if they landed the same amount of punches and put the same amount of power behind it, Triple G's punches would have been more powerful because he was coming forward. All right, let me see. Ramen said, I'll finish him. Max said he'll finish Canelo. Okay. Jimbo Slice says, Burger Vitas is too much of a liability. Yeah, he didn't make weight class. That's why he called him Burger. If you guys don't know, Benavidez, if I'm not mistaken, he lost his belt twice because he came in overweight. But he hasn't lost a fight, but he lost his belt twice, I think, at least once for sure. Bad habits. Yeah, he tested positive for cocaine and came in overweight. Oh, okay. One of them was for illegal substance, and okay, I get it. The other one stripped of his WBC twice. Right. No, but I got an interview on my channel, and I interviewed Samson, who is actually David Benavidez' promoter. And he said that Benavidez has changed his life around, and he's on track. And he's a young guy. He's only 24 years old. I think he broke the record for becoming a super middleweight champion at the youngest age. I think he did it when he was like 21 or something like that. So, maybe he got that youngness out, and Samson said he's like an adult now. And I'm actually going to be doing make sure you guys like this video. I'm going to be doing an interview with David Benavidez coming up soon, because I really wanted to get an interview with him because I think he's going to be the one. Once he gets his belt back, Canelo's saying that he wants to get the belts. He want to unify the belts. And out of all of these fighters, David Benavidez is the only super middleweight, and that's where Canelo just won those belts, because Charlo, Andrade, and Triple G, they're all middleweights. They're fighting at 160. So let me see. Yeah, Ramen, he laughing at David Benavidez. He lost it twice. Yeah, so he's gonna be able to say he regained his title 3 times and he ain't never lost the fight. He never lost, but he lost it twice. That's crazy. All right, let me see. Yasin said Logan Paul will beat him, whoever this guy is. Nah, Logan Paul is good for somebody that just picked up boxing as an adult, but with these real boxers, nah, he's not hanging. Chan said Triple G has a strong chin. Him and Canelo got a strong chin. Neither one of them look like they ever get hurt. Canelo can give a good fight, but he can't win against them. It'll be Triple G all over again. Benavidez could, Earl could, but Canelo's speed is really different. I agree, but out of those, I think Benavidez is the one that has the size, because even though Triple G and Canelo, they're like similar in frame, but Benavidez is like a tall fighter, but he's powerful and tall. He knows how to, even though he's not super active with his jab, he's better at using his reach than like Smith was. Smith did not know how to use his reach at all, and his whole corner should be fired. The way that the lack of jab usage that he has had against Canelo, he had an 8-inch reach advantage and could have did that. Yeah, Earl Spence I think could give. Well, no, I'm gonna take that back. I don't think Earl could. I don't think Errol Spence could give Canelo a problem. I'm going to tell you right now, because Spence is fighting at 147. Canelo's fighting at 168. So Spence was talking about, I might move up to 160, but Canelo's not at 160 right now. He's at 168, and I don't think he's going to go down. I think Spence would have to come up, and I don't think Spence would be able to go up to 168. So he was talking to if Canelo would want to come down to 160, and I don't know if he would want to come down for that fight. But that's the money fight, so that's why everybody wants that. Spence probably wants to fight Manny Pacquiao or Canelo, because those are the biggest money fights on the table for him right now, or that he could possibly get. They're not on the table, though. Let me change that. Yeah, Canelo's speed. That's the one thing Canelo has over Triple G, Chan, is his speed. But I agree with you that I think if Triple G and Canelo fought right now, I think it would be the same as the first two fights. It would be close to a draw, or I would favor it to Triple G winning by sight. But I think the judges would give it again to Canelo. I think you really got to dominate Canelo. You either got to knock out Canelo or dominate him. Like, it has to be a very dominant performance, kind of like obvious. And I think David Benavidez is the one to be able to do that because, like I said, David Benavidez is 23-0, has 20 knockouts. He's only 24 years old. So he has a lot of things in his favor. I think Canelo's faster than Benavidez, but I think Benavidez is a more powerful puncher. And I think out of all of the super middleweights, that's what Canelo's fighting at right now. He would be the one to give the most work to Canelo. All right, let me go back to the chat. Dagny says, I don't know if other people said this, but you sound like Chris Bouchard, or Chris sounds like you. Hey, I'll take that, Dagme, because I never heard that before, but I actually like Chris Bouchard. I do a lot of basketball. I watch a lot of basketball. I'm probably going to start doing some basketball videos, too, because I used to hoop. I actually got some basketball games online where I played people on for some money, so y'all could look on my channel and see some of my hooping videos. I like basketball a lot, so I might start doing some of those videos. But I take that as a compliment, Dagme, so I appreciate that. Ramen says, I never seen a fight with helmets on. What? LOL, he lost it twice. Oh, I think he talking about, make sure you guys like the video. Like this video for me one time. I'll say, Dogme said, I think if there is a rematch between Canelo and Smith, it will be interesting. Canelo never really hurt him. Don't nobody want to see a rematch with Canelo and Smith. That was lopsided. Are you talking about, yeah, I don't want to see that fight. Or do you mean Triple G? Are you talking about Triple G maybe? All right, Ramen says, I just got back from eating some McDonald's. Man, I need some, I haven't ate breakfast yet. I need me some Mickey D's, man. Get the, did you have the pancakes or did you have the breakfast muffin? I like the breakfast muffin. Let me see, jumbo slice. Canelo dislocated Alan Smith's bicep, bro. Nobody trying to rewatch my, hey, for real. Did he? I heard them say that he might have did that, but when I seen the interview with Smith, I didn't see him holding his arm or acting like it hurt or anything. So I didn't know if that was true or not. But yeah, he looked kind of muscular when they was doing that interview with Callum Smith. It might have been that his bicep got torn. It made him look yoked up a little more. But do y'all think that David Benavidez could give Canelo a fight? I think David Benavidez is the one. I think he's going to be the one. And I think I hope Benavidez and Platt get a fight because David Benavidez got to win his oh, you got the pancakes. I don't really like their pancakes that much. They all right. They eggs, I don't really like the eggs that much, but the biscuit, And the sausage, yeah, I go ham on that, folks. Let me see Jack. Don't know who could beat him, but he could possibly fight Saunders, Spence, Benavidez, Triple G, and both the Charlos. I think, let me break this down. So Jack I think he's just tapping in. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing an interview with, David Benavidez probably in this upcoming week. Hopefully I get it locked in. But Jamal Charlo is 31-0, he has 22 KOs. He's 30 years old. He's the same age as Canelo. I don't think he could beat Canelo because I don't think he would be able to back down Canelo because he doesn't. I like judging boxing by analytics. So I'm using analytics to break this down. And it's going to take somebody that could back up Canelo. So somebody's going to have to be powerful enough, have enough of a knockout punch to back up Canelo. If Canelo's coming forward, he's going to beat you, period. Point blank. There's no question about it. The judges, even if he don't really beat you, the judges would give it to him. So you got to be somebody that has a powerful punch like Triple G. Triple G was able to back up Canelo a lot in the first round. He even did it half of the second fight. But in the first fight, Triple G was backing up Canelo the whole first fight, and that's why that fight was so close, and Triple G actually should have won their first fight. So I don't think I don't think Andrade would be able to back up Canelo, so Canelo would win those fights. David Benavidez is 23-0, has 20 KOs. He's only 24 years old. He's way bigger, has a nice reach advantage over Canelo. I think he would be able to back up Canelo. I definitely don't think Canelo would be able to back up David Benavidez. He'll stand there and go toe-to-toe. And I think David Benavidez is powerful enough to where Canelo wouldn't really try to. You know how in like the first Triple G fight, Canelo really didn't try to back down Triple G. He conceded. He was like, okay, Triple G's backing me down. Let me just slowly try to back up. And that's what happened. And I think David Benavidez would be able to dictate the fight against Canelo. Make sure you guys like this video. So I think David Benavidez would be able to beat Canelo. I think it's going to take somebody that could like really do damage on Canelo, like to where it's hard for the judges to give Canelo rounds because Canelo is boxing's biggest cash cow right now. So if it's close, Canelo is going to win. You got to beat Canelo by a landslide. That's why Triple G didn't get the judges' benefit of the doubt in the first fight. He didn't beat him by a landslide. Triple G edged it out. I think he won a lot of the rounds, but they weren't like he was just outscoring them hella. It was close rounds every round, and they gave it to Canelo. So you got to beat him convincingly. And then you also mentioned Spence. I don't think Spence would be able to beat Canelo because Spence is fighting at 147. I think Spence could go up to 160 and do good. But Canelo just fought at super middleweight, which is 168. So you think Spence is going to be able to come up to 168 and hang with Canelo? When Canelo was able to go up, he went up to light heavy and beat Kovalev for the light heavyweight, the WBO belt. Even though Kovalev was 37 years old, Canelo was still able to go up to light heavy and win. And I think he won by a knockout. So that's impressive. So I don't think Spence would be able to beat Canelo because I don't think Canelo's coming down to 160. Because I think everybody would want him to fight Triple G if he goes down to middle. So I think Canelo's going to stay at 168, which is super middle. And at super middle, the best fight for him, the person that could beat him. Make sure you guys like this video. The person to beat him would be Benavidez. Benavidez is 23-0 with 20 KOs, and he's only 24 years old. All right, let me go back to the chat, see what y'all talking in the chat. Let me see, Ramen. I don't like them. He's talking about the the McDonald's breakfast pancakes. I feel you. I feel you, bro. I'm not mad at you. They're good sometimes. What it is I think I got the last time I had the McDonald's pancakes, I got them to go, and they got cold. And if you eating them warm, they're not that bad. They're not great though. IHOP got better pancakes for sure. Let me see. Shorty said, just saw vid saying Canelo is afraid of black boxers. Oh, I never heard of that. Well, Canelo would be able to beat, I think Canelo would beat Andrade and Charlo. Both of those guys are middleweights, though. They would have to come up to super middle. And so I think Canelo would be able to back both of those guys down. But, I mean, what black fighters has Canelo fought? Yeah, in my recent memory, I can't think of many black fighters. So maybe that Canelo has fought. I don't think he's scared of them, though. I don't know what it is, though, but we'll see. He's gonna have to fight David Benavidez, though. David Benavidez, Mexican, no. Let me see, Tyson Fury. Of course Tyson Fury would beat Canelo because of the weight advantage, size advantage. Yeah, he should be afraid of Mike Tyson and Mayweather. Oh, my goodness. Canelo should be afraid. All right, let me see. Chan says, why do I feel Benavidez has a chance to overwhelm Canelo with punches? Because he has quick reloading punches. But I also see Canelo knock out Benavidez. Benavidez's hands are always lowered. Yeah, you're right. But Benavidez is fighting dudes that are like his size. Like, we haven't really seen David Benavidez fight a smaller fighter. Canelo's like 5'9". So when David Benavidez has a big size advantage and a big reach advantage, like, I haven't seen that yet. Everybody I've seen, David Benavidez is like close to his size, like 6 foot, and they got a similar reach. So, and he's able to keep those big guys at bay with his long reach. So I think if David Benavidez fights somebody smaller like Canelo, it's going to be all bad for Canelo because he knows how to keep boxers at the end of his punches. That's what Smith didn't do. Smith was unable to keep Canelo at the end of his punches. Canelo ate up all the distance in the first 2 rounds, and he was in range the whole fight with Smith. Smith couldn't keep him back. So I see Benavidez being able to do damage to Canelo and being able to beat Canelo. What up to my boy, the mailman? What's popping with you, folks, when you doing battles again? Man, I think I'm done with the battles, bro. It got too, I kind of grew up out of it. I'm not interested in the battles as much. I'm into the boxing. I'm out here in Vegas. I might as well dabble into this boxing, you feel me, since I'm watching all these fights. So I think I'm good on the boxing. I might bring some of the artists on to interview them or something. But, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing no more battles, folks. Make sure you guys like this video. Let me get that thumbs up on the video. Let me see. Chan said, if he doesn't fix that hands to protect his chin, Canelo can definitely knock him out. Yeah, Canelo could, but I don't see it happening. It's when you get these undefeated fighters. That's why I knew Canelo wasn't going to be able to knock out Smith, because these undefeated fighters that never tasted a loss, they'd almost rather die in the ring than get knocked out. And so even though Canelo was able to land all of his punches, he was landing uppercuts, jabs, hooks. He landed all of that against Smith, and he wasn't able to knock out Smith. And Smith is nowhere near the fighter Benavidez is. So if Canelo couldn't knock out Callum Smith, he's definitely not going to knock out Benavidez, because you got to remember, Canelo's fighting at super middle. That's 168. He's not as powerful as he was when he was at 160. If that was at 160, if he was fighting a 160-pounder last night, he would have been able to knock him out because he's more powerful in that weight class. But as a super middle, Canelo's still powerful. He does still have a knockout punch, but he's not going to knock out an undefeated, really top fighter, because he couldn't even knock out Smith. Smith isn't an elite super middleweight. He was the champion, but nah, he's not up there with David Benavidez. David Benavidez would have knocked out Callum Smith last night. Trust and believe that. So let's see, the mailman. He beat Mosley, Trout, who were both top of their division. He fought Floyd, Kirkland. Other than Canelo, ain't no other African-American fighters were fighting at 160 or 168. So, yeah, the mailman, yeah, those are some black fighters that he fought. Okay, I dig that. Yeah, so that person, that video that the homie was talking about, yeah, I guess, he did fight some black fighters. Hey, what's poppin'? John Wayne in the building. Let me see the mailman. Benavidez not ready for Canelo. The level of quality of fighters isn't they resume. Don't even compare. Canelo would run through him. Hey, I disagree with you, mailman, because you're right, though. Like, David Benavidez ain't fought nobody the caliber of Canelo. He hasn't fought nobody the caliber of Triple G. He hasn't fought nobody the caliber of Floyd Mayweather. He hasn't fought none of those type dudes. But he's fighting the best fights he could get. Like, these dudes don't want to fight him. Benavidez was the youngest super middleweight champion. He broke the record. He's only 24 years old. So you're saying that at 24 years old, he's supposed to have a comparable resume to Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo's 30, and Canelo fights like 3 times a year. Canelo's like super active. Like, there's no way you could even compare, because Canelo has 6 more years, professional years boxing experience. So it's going to be inequivalent. Right? But David Benavidez has just reached the upper echelon. Like, David Benavidez is 23-0. Like, 5 fights ago, David Benavidez was only 18-0. Like, how's he going to get top fighters when, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really start getting the top championship fighters till you're like 20-0. And he's only 23-0. He's only been in the 20s, had 20 victories for 3 fights. So he's barely starting to get the upper echelon fights. I'm talking about David Benavidez. Make sure y'all like this video. So you're right. David Benavidez hasn't fought the level of competition Canelo has. But David Benavidez is running through everybody. And Canelo is smaller than David Benavidez. David Benavidez is knocking out everybody. The way you're going to beat Canelo is you got to back him up. It has to be a fighter that could stop Canelo from coming forward. If Canelo's coming forward, he's going to beat you flat out. No question, no debating. He's going to wear you down and he's going to beat you. David Benavidez is powerful enough. He has a long enough reach that Canelo's going to have to respect. Canelo's going to have to respect David Benavidez like he respected Triple G in that first fight. And if he's on the outside, David Benavidez has a bigger reach than Triple G. And since Triple G is a middleweight and David Benavidez is a super middleweight, I'm going to go ahead and say that David Benavidez is a more powerful puncher than Triple G, because David Benavidez is fighting at a weight class 8 pounds heavier. He's a super middleweight, and he's knocking everybody out. And he has a bigger reach advantage than, I think Triple G had a reach advantage over Canelo, but it was just slightly, maybe 1 or 2 inches. But no, David Benavidez would have like maybe like a 5 to 7 inch reach advantage over Canelo. And I think David Benavidez would be able to keep Canelo from walking him down just because he is powerful enough. And David Benavidez don't back up. And at super middleweight, that's what Canelo's fighting at. He's not as powerful as he was when he was at middleweight. And how do I know that? Because Canelo wasn't able to knock out Smith. Smith was another undefeated fighter. These undefeated fighters, it's hard to knock them out because they never lost. They'll die in the ring. They're like, I can't lose. You can't knock me out. If you can't knock me out, I have a chance to win. And so I don't think he would be able to knock out David Benavidez. What's up to everybody in the chat? Make sure y'all like this video. I missed a couple. Billy Joe Saunders is the man to beat Canelo. I got to watch more of his fights. I'm not that familiar with Saunders. But I think David Benavidez is the #1 person that he should fight. Let me see. Blessed Warrior, what's popping? Shout out to you, folks. Thanks for joining the live stream. Make sure y'all like this video. Let me see. The mailman. At 24, Canelo already had Floyd in his resume. You right, and he lost. You right. But Canelo's more active than Canelo was super active. But I don't think Canelo was champion as early as David Benavidez. I think David for super middleweight. And then you also got to think that Canelo is coming up in weight. Canelo fought Mayweather at 147. Canelo just fought last night at 168. And he's fighting somebody that's a true 168 pounder if he fought David Benavidez. So I think David Benavidez is the one, y'all. Peter, Canelo said he WP. What's that? What's WP? Let me see. The mailman. How did I join the live? OD. I like this boxing talk. 100. My man, I appreciate that, the mailman. Let me see. He needs to fight someone with power. Right. 6. I think it's David Benavidez. Look at David Benavidez's record. David Benavidez is 23-0 and has 23 KOs, and he's only 24 years old. That's the one. Mark my word. Y'all remember this. That's why I made this video, because I wanted to have a video that I could refer to where I said I think David Benavidez is the one that's going to be able to beat Canelo. Because listen, if you go the distance with Canelo, it's going to be super hard to beat him. Like, Canelo is like Floyd used to be. Canelo is the cash cow of boxing. He is the #1 boxer right now as far as generating revenue. So the judges want Canelo to win because they keeping that machine going. So you gotta make it worth the decision, the judge's decision when you beat him. You can't do like Triple G. I thought Triple G beat Canelo the first fight, but he didn't do it decisive enough to make the judges go against the cash cow. It has to be somebody that's like Triple G. They got to do what Triple G did. They got to take that recipe that Triple G used in that first fight, which is to back Canelo up. If you do, listen, mark my words, if you do not back Canelo up, he is going to win. You got to back Canelo up. That's one. And the way I'm going by analytics. I'm doing, y'all remember that one baseball movie where it's about the analytics? I forgot. It was Brad Pitt was a star in that movie. So I'm breaking it down by the analytics like that dude. It has to be somebody, to beat Canelo, it has to be somebody that has a high knockout percentage. Somebody that's able to keep Canelo from coming forward. It's not going to be somebody like, I don't think Charlo could do it. Because Charlo's 31-0, he only has 22 knockouts out of those 32 victories. That's not enough. You're not powerful enough. That tells me right now. And then also, not only that, this goes to people who think that Charlo and Andrade could beat Canelo. Charlo has 22 KOs out of 31 victories. Andrade has 29 victories. He's 29-0. But he only has 18 KOs. Both of those fighters are fighting at middleweight. They're fighting at 160, and they're not knocking everybody out. So if they come up to what Canelo is at right now, 168, they're not going to have the power they had at middleweight when they go up to super middleweight. So they really not going to be able to keep Canelo from coming forward. So Canelo beats Charlo and Andrade, in my opinion. Mark my words if they make that fight happen. But you got David Benavidez, who is an actual super middleweight. He's fighting at 168, and he's knocking everybody out just about. And he's the one that could back up Canelo and stop Canelo from coming forward, which I don't think none of those other fighters would be able to do. All right, let me go back to the chat. Benavidez would be another Triple G. I actually think Benavidez is a more powerful puncher than Triple G, because Triple G's fighting at middleweight, which is 160. Benavidez is fighting at 168. And Triple G and Benavidez are knocking out almost everybody they're fighting. But Benavidez is doing it at 168. So when Canelo faces a 168, a super middleweight that has knockout power, I think that's going to have more impact, do more damage on him than when he fought a middleweight that had knockout power. You feel me? They both got knockout artists. They're both knockout artists, Benavidez and Triple G. But Benavidez is in the heavier weight class. So because he's in the heavier weight class, I say if they both punch the same person, Benavidez would have do the more damage with his punch because he's in the heavier weight class. You feel me? It's like saying Mike Tyson versus Triple G, who has the more powerful punch? Well, Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson's heavier or whatever. But when you compare him against a heavyweight, and you can compare Triple G's punch versus a middleweight, Triple G is probably the more powerful puncher. Their knockout ratio would tell you so if you look at both of their records. So let me see. Peter says Lara beat Canelo. I'd have to watch that fight. I don't think I remember that fight, so I gotta watch that fight again. Lara did beat Canelo. I'm gonna have to watch that fight again and see. And what weight class was that at? Let me see. The mailman, Canelo beat Triple G both fights. I disagree with you, the mailman. I thought since Triple G in the first fight against Canelo, he was backing up Canelo, so he was in charge. He was like dictating the fight, right? He was leading the dance, you could say. And I thought he landed the more solid punches. I think Canelo was taking a little bit off of his punches so he could be quicker, and he was using his speed to land his punches. But Triple G was just landing his strong punches like that whole fight. And even if look, in the first Canelo versus Triple G fight, if you thought the fight was even, if you look at their punch output and punch landed and all of that, if you thought their punch output and landings were all the exact same, Triple G should have still won that fight because he was making Canelo back up. He was the champion. Canelo had to beat Triple G. And I don't think Canelo beat Triple G like the way that you're supposed to beat a champion. It was either a draw. The first fight was either a draw or Triple G should have won. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Absolutely no doubt. Let me see. Charlo, could you be tripping? You tripping. All right, Sauce. I don't think Charlo could, and this is why. Charlo is a middleweight. He's fighting at 160. Canelo just won the championship last night at super middleweight, which is 168. So you telling me Charlo is 31-0. He has 22 KOs. So he's not knocking out everybody right now. When Charlo started fighting the top middleweights, he's not knocking them all out no more. He's getting knockouts here and there, but he's not getting a lot of knockouts right now. And he would have to go up 8 pounds to fight Canelo. So he's going to lose power, right? You got to concede that, okay, Charlo's not going to be as powerful. And he already wasn't knocking out all the middleweights. And so now he's going to come up to super middle. And you think he's going to be able to stop Canelo from coming forward after going up in weight? Charlo's not going to be able to do that. Canelo will be able to walk him down and he'll beat him. And I hate to say that. I would like to see Charlo come up and do some things. He's 31-0. But did you know Charlo and Canelo are the same age? I thought Charlo was younger, but they're the same age. They're both 30 years old. Let me see. Crawford moving up in weight can beat Canelo. No, I say hell no. Crawford could not beat Canelo. Because Crawford's fighting at welterweight. He's fighting at 147 right now. So Crawford would have to go up to 160 middleweight. So that's 13 pounds. And then he would have to go up to 168, which is super middle. That's what Canelo's just fought at. And Canelo said he wants to win the belts. I think Canelo's going to stay. Listen, I could tell you right now, this is going to be Canelo's strategy. He's going to stay at 168 because he doesn't want to fight Triple G yet. Triple G is 38. Let me see. Triple G is 38 years old. I think Canelo's going to wait till Triple G gets 40 years old to fight him again. He's going to let him get older. He just saw how strong. Because let me put some real game on y'all right now. If you look at Triple G's fight from the other night, and then you look at Canelo's fight, both of them fought undefeated fighters. They fought dudes that were like the upper tier of the weight class. Canelo fought a champion. Triple G fought his mandatory. Everybody thought this dude was a solid dude. I can't even pronounce his name. His name starts with the S, whatever it is. And out of the two fights, when you compare their performance, Triple G's performance was way better than Canelo. It was way better because he knocked out his opponent. And why was it way better? Because Triple G has been staying at middleweight. He's not moving around weight classes. Like, that's hard. What Canelo is doing is amazing. Canelo's previous fight before that, before he fought Smith, he fought at light heavyweight and he won. He beat Kovalev. That was a different weight class. He had to come back down to 168. Like, that's amazing what Canelo's doing. But it's also making him a little vulnerable, I think. I think the fact that he's not just staying at 168, and if he fought somebody like David Benavidez, who is only fighting at 168, is a true super middleweight, it's to Benavidez's advantage. And so I think Benavidez is the one that's going to be able to back up and stop Canelo from coming forward. If you cannot stop Canelo from coming forward, you're not going to beat him, period. Make sure you guys like this video. I'm going to get back to the chat, see what y'all talking about in the chat. Let me see. Spence will beat Nello. All right, 6. I already rebuked that, and I'm going to rebuke it one more time for you, for anybody that thinks Errol Spence could beat Canelo. I'm going to break it down to you. It would depend on their weight class. But right now, I would say hell no, because Canelo's fighting at 168. So you're telling me Errol Spence is going to go from welterweight, 147, and he's going to jump up all the way to super middleweight? That's the same for Spence and Crawford. They got to go all the way up to super middleweight. I don't think Canelo is going to move. I think Canelo's going to stay at 168, and he wants to unify the belts at 168. And if Triple G wants to fight him, Triple G is going to have to come up. I don't think Triple G is going to come up because Triple G got a gang of belts, and I don't think he want to. I think he want to hold on to them belts. Let me see. The only way Crawford or Spence have a chance is a catchweight fight with 154. The mailman, I agree with you, but why would Canelo do that? Canelo is the bigger draw. Why would he give anything to them? He's going to make them like, nah, y'all got to come up to where I'm at. And I don't see Canelo bowing down. With Canelo is the man right now. Like, Canelo shouldn't give nobody no breaks. He shouldn't give nobody no catch weight. Everybody should have to come to the cash cow. You want to fight Canelo? You're the B side. You gotta fight at the weight he wants to fight you at, or don't fight him. So if Charlo wants to fight Canelo, come up to 168 and get beat. Andrade, you want to fight Canelo, go up to 168, because that's what Canelo's at. Canelo holds all the cards. He's the number one revenue generating fighter right now. So he shouldn't give no concessions to any fighter. Especially after just winning the belt. He just won a belt at 168. Why would he do anything in any other weight class? And he's the cash cow, and he just beat the champion. And why not? He wants to unify the belts. My boy Patrick in the building. What's up, Pat? What's popping with you, folks? Make sure you guys like this video. Let me see what Patrick got going. Holla OD. How about Canelo versus SOG? Who's SOG? I don't know who that is offhand. I'm tripping. I'm slipping. Dag says, Dag me says true, but the fact that he knew the power now and can use his reach is dangerous. Who you talking about, Dag me? Yeah. Leo Cinto. What? You not feeling what I'm saying? I think Benavidez could give Canelo a run for his money. He's a true super middleweight. He's definitely more of a threat than Smith. And the thing about it is, I think if David Benavidez fought Callum Smith, David Benavidez would have knocked him out. Watch if Benavidez fights Smith. I guarantee you he'll knock him out. I'll put money on that fight, that he would knock him out. Let me see. LOL, Canelo would hurt Spence. It would depend on what weight class. That would be an important factor. True, but the fact, let me see. It's a fight, bro. Let me see. 154, Canelo versus Pac-Man. I would give that to Pacquiao because Canelo just fought at 168. So that would be that's drastic going down to 154. Canelo wouldn't do that. I don't think Canelo's worried about going down. He's at 168. He's trying to do his thing at 168. So I don't see Pacquiao and Canelo fighting. Let me see. Peter says Spence drew more in his last fight than Canelo did last night. Did he? I gotta watch that. I didn't hear about that. I gotta fight. I gotta find. I gotta do my research on that, Peter. But that's not a fair comparison because Spence fought Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is damn near as big as Spence. So, and look at Canelo fought Smith. Like, compare the draw of Smith versus Danny Garcia. That's not a fair comparison. Danny Garcia is a way bigger draw than Smith. So you got to consider the opponent in your comparison as well. So you might be right, but I don't think that shows the draw of Canelo because Canelo was fighting a no-name. Even though dude was a champion, he did have a country behind him, but he wasn't like a well-known, super established fighter like that. He just wasn't. Let me see. Spence drew 16. Oh, you're talking about the crowd in attendance? That's what you're talking. I thought you was talking about the pay-per-view. And it's even hard to compare the pay-per-view because Canelo's on DAZN, and that's more of a membership, and so you really can't. It's hard to compare that. And if you're talking about the crowd in attendance with the COVID, and it just depends on how they did it. What's the social distancing measurements that they used. You know what I'm saying? So you got to consider that. But I thought Canelo's it was sold out for the tickets that they did sell. But selling out under COVID social distancing isn't a big deal because it's not the real capacity that they could have had. He's going to go back to the UK and fight somebody to fight. Right. He talking about, dude, Andrew. You talking about Andre Ward, the mailman. Andre Ward ain't fighting no more. He been retired. He ain't. Oh, that's who. Oh, my bad. Okay, you right. Yeah, if that would have been a good fight. I probably would have led. I would have gave the advantage to Canelo if he fought Andre Ward. And the reason, I don't think Andre Ward is powerful enough to keep Canelo from coming forward. I don't think. And if it would have went to the decision, I think they would have gave it to Canelo. So I think Canelo would have won that fight if they would have ever put that together. But yeah, Andre Ward, he ain't coming out. So I feel you, Pat. My bad. I can't even believe I ain't remember that. Yeah. Son of God, I forgot. Let me see, 6. All right, let me see. Spence gonna walk him down. It depends on what weight class they fight. If Spence would have to come up to 160, I think Canelo would be able to. I don't think Canelo would fight at 160. I think he's fighting at 168. So we're talking about a fight that's not gonna happen. Let me see. Danny Garcia is a bigger draw than Smith. You right, mailman. I agree with you. Let me see. Pacquiao has never fought at 154. He would get washed. So the highest that Pacquiao fought is welterweight, 147. I don't know. I guess. Let me see. Patrick Canelo fought Danny already, right? He fought Jacobs, yeah. Is it Danny Jacobs or the other? I thought what is it? Let me see. He fought that Jacobs dude, and it was a decent fight. Let me see. Or was it? Let me see who fought him. Yeah, Daniel Jacobs. Yeah. Canelo fought him, and Canelo beat him. They said, I don't remember that fight. I know I watched it. But see, that's why I think David Benavidez could beat Canelo. Because if you look at the Daniel Jacobs fight, Daniel Jacobs is a real super middleweight. And he was able to, he kind of kept Canelo a little bit from just walking him down like super outrageous. Like, dude was able to stand his ground here and there. And he doesn't have nowhere near the power that David Benavidez has. So I think David Benavidez would definitely be able to hold his ground and back up Canelo. Let me see. Ward is 178. No, Ward's 168, right? Gabe Rosado is game. Yeah, I agree. We'll never know because Canelo won't take the fight. Which fight you talking about? They got to come up to 168. You got to have, basically, I think you got to have a belt and be fighting at 168 if you want to fight Canelo right now. So I could see Canelo fighting Plant. Plant has one of the belts at 168. But I would rather see David Benavidez fight Plant, and the winner of that fight Canelo. And I think that would be David Benavidez. I think he could beat Plant. Plant solid, though. Let me see. The mailman, Jock Hell, Canelo has been fighting top 10 fighters since he was 24. Yeah, Canelo don't waste his time. He's fighting the upper echelon dudes for real. But he's fighting dudes that got belts. Like, Smith isn't like if you were to talk to boxing aficionados, they would say that David Benavidez is a tougher opponent than Smith. He's a better fighter than Smith. He's has more of a knockout punch than Smith. He's a bigger threat to Canelo. Even though they both had belts, David Benavidez lost his belt for being overweight or whatever. But I mean, if Canelo stays at 68, he got to fight David Benavidez to say that he's fighting the top dudes. Let me see. Bulgaria in the building. Respect. Let me answer the Mayweather already. Did that LOL. Beside that, seemed like nobody can but himself. I guess he's saying Quan saying that nobody could beat Canelo other than Floyd. Floyd outboxed Canelo in the middle of the ring. Yeah, like Canelo has improved dramatically since he fought Mayweather. Canelo's a way better fighter now, so I wouldn't even hold that loss against Canelo right now, because Canelo was young. He was only like 24 or something like that. Yeah, but Canelo was a boy back then. Now he's a man. Hey, for real, Canelo done stepped it up since then, for real. What weight was Floyd? Floyd was welter 147. He went to 154 a couple times. Yeah. Most of his career, he is at 147. But he might have fought Canelo at 154. He did fight Canelo at 154. I think that might have been a catch weight or something. Let me see. Canelo fights cats that's about to retire or not really stars. Jock. Well, that's what Smith was. Smith is not really a star, so you got a point with that. But he's fighting champions. When you fighting champions, like, it's hard to knock when you're fighting a champion. You got to blame that on the boxing bodies that hold the belts, because if they're not making, drawing the biggest fighters to be the champions, like what's the purpose of the belts in the first place? The best dudes are supposed to have the belts. So I'm glad Canelo got that belt, because Canelo's a better fighter than Smith. And now when somebody like David Benavidez becomes his mandatory, then let's see what's popping. Let's see if Canelo moves around to a different weight class. Let me see. I really see Spence backing up Canelo. Spence may not knock out Canelo, but I really see him challenge and beat Canelo via decision. Spence is a southpaw, catch weight 160-ish if Canelo wants to. Yeah, Chan, Canelo's not going to do it, though. I don't think Canelo's moving out of 168. He just won the championship, and he only got one belt at 168. So I think he's going to try to unify the 168, because I think he could beat Plant, but I don't think, and Plant has a belt at 168, but I don't think he could beat David Benavidez at 168. But David Benavidez don't have a belt right now, so Canelo don't really have no reason to fight him right now. Let me see. Floyd is special. Canelo is beatable. 6. Yeah, I believe that David Benavidez could beat Canelo, but I think Canelo will beat Charlo. Charlo doesn't have a high enough, me going back to my analytics, Charlo doesn't have a high enough knockout percentage to be able to keep Canelo from backing him down. Canelo beats Demetrius Andrade. Andrade's 29-0, has 18 KOs, not powerful enough to keep Canelo from coming forward. You're not gonna beat Canelo if he's coming forward, point blank. You got to be powerful enough to keep Canelo from walking you down. Somebody like a Triple G or a David Benavidez. All these other suckers, Canelo's going to beat them. Let me see. David Benavidez hasn't fought anyone. At least Smith has Grove, who was a champion in his resume. The mailman. But so you're comparing the resumes of Smith versus Benavidez. But Smith got knocked out against all the top fighters he fought. Benavidez has beat some champions though. Like Benavidez, let's critique David Benavidez. Since I'm so high on David Benavidez and I say David Benavidez could beat Canelo, let's critique his resume. He's 23-0. And he probably became the champion when he was maybe like 21-0. Like, how many top fighters are you going to be able to fight when you're 21-0? You're not going to be able to fight that many fighters. Look at Callum Smith was 27-0, and he only had like 2 big fights under his belt. David Benavidez, like right now at 23-0, undefeated with 20 KOs, is at a point where he should be fighting top level fighters every fight. It should be like a champion, a former champion, or somebody high regarded or he's fighting mandatory so he could become like a mandatory for a belt since he lost his belt. So even though David Benavidez he doesn't have like the best resume, but he only has 23 fights. Like Canelo Alvarez at 23-0 didn't have an amazing resume because you don't get a lot of great fights at 23-0. You know, boxing, they bring you along slowly. When you start hitting 20-0, that's when you start fighting the upper echelon. And even at 23-0, you might not necessarily be fighting the top elite yet. You know, sometimes they wait till even a little after that for you to start fighting the elite. Let me move this a little higher. Hold on, I'm going to get to the chat real quick because my alert got covered, or I'll just make the alert come on top. Let me see. Let me delete this. Hold on, let me change my screen real quick. Make a little minor alteration real quick. Make sure y'all like this video. So I think it's unfair to say that David Benavidez hasn't fought elite fighters. He's only 23-0. Like, it's hard to get the fights. Like, Canelo don't even want to fight him right now because David Benavidez isn't a big enough name right now. So let me see. Can we talk about Canelo? Patrick, my boy Patrick in the building. Let me see. Oh, wait, let me read this one first. David Benavidez versus Plant is the fight to make, but Plant has chosen to fight True Oz next instead. Yeah, they're avoiding Plant. I mean, they're avoiding Benavidez. Benavidez has to win his belt back to make it worth their while. As long as Benavidez doesn't have a belt, it's going to be hard for him to get some of those top fights. All right, let me see. My boy Patrick says, can we talk about Canelo as an all-time great? Canelo versus James Toney at 168. Yeah, I think we can, but with Canelo, he's running around these weight classes so tough. Like, what weight class would we put him at? Like, you're putting him at 168, but how many fights has Canelo had at super middleweight? I think he's only had a couple. So I don't think you would start matching him up with all-time greats at that weight class. You'd have to go to his stronger weight class, because I actually think 168 is a weight class where Canelo's vulnerable because he's not as powerful at 168. And it was evident last night because he hit Smith with every punch he had in his arsenal and landed flush, clean shots and wasn't able to knock out Smith. And I think David Benavidez would have been able to knock out Smith. I think that's who David Benavidez should fight next, Smith, just to show everybody what he could do that Canelo wasn't able to do. I wish it was just 4 belts in every division. Yeah, they got too many belts, man. It's too confusing and all that. Laura got dropped by her. Let me see, Patrick. Charlos are pretty solid, though. They're good at 1-2s. I think that would be an exciting fight. I think Canelo walks them both down. But yeah, it would be because they're quick too. They're speed. So they're probably faster than Canelo or as fast as Canelo. So that would make the Charlos fights interesting. But going to the analytics, they're not powerful enough to stop them from coming forward. And I think that would be the difference, Pat. Let me see. Benavidez is the best fighter at 168. Agreed, 6. Agreed. Not everybody knows that yet, but they're going to find out. Even Canelo will eventually find out. He just has to be a man and make sure he stays away from the drugs, make sure he makes weight. Trip, man. He messed up by losing his belt, but he gonna get it back. And make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. I should be getting an interview with David Benavidez within a week or so. Let me see. Andrade has fast feet. Canelo don't do well. It's fast fighters with feet. Khan got greedy and Canelo laid a trap and caught him. Hey, that's a good point, Peter. I didn't even consider that in my assessment of Andrade versus Canelo. But you got to consider that Andrade is a middleweight. He fights at 160. So is he going to come up to 168, super middleweight, to fight Canelo? If he does, I got Canelo. Let's see. Dog Me says, I still think he needs second fight with Smith. Now he felt the power and he will definitely use the reach. Nobody wants to see Smith. He is not going to rematch Smith. You said he will definitely use the reach in a rematch. He will use his reach in a rematch. But he knew that he had the reach advantage before the fight and during the fight. Why didn't his camp train to where he became an expert at the jab? Like his whole boxing career, I'm talking about Smith right now. He should be an expert at the jab because in his weight class, he's going to have a significant reach advantage over all of his fighters. So that's like you got Shaquille O'Neal on your basketball team, but you got him shooting mid-range shots instead of posting them up. No, you're going to make Shaquille O'Neal become an expert at post-up, right? And you're going to build his whole game around his post-up game. Callum Smith's whole boxing career should have been creating him as an expert at the jab and built his whole fighting style around his jab. And they built him like a regular fighter that doesn't have an super advantage over all these other fighters. So they're not going to do that now. He has 27 professional fights and they haven't done that. So why would they do that now? Like it's too late. They messed up. They took a Shaquille O'Neal and told him to be a regular basketball player. Go learn how to shoot the three, shoot the mid-range shot, learn to do the teardrop instead of telling them to focus. They should have did the 80-20 rule with Callum Smith. 80% you should be focusing on the jab and the other 20% you should be focusing on other punches. That's how I would have coached Callum Smith from the beginning of his career as an amateur. If he was in this weight class that whole time, yeah, they dropped the ball with Smith. It's too late for him to change his style. Nello will not fight him. Will not fight who? Let me see. Dog Me says, I still think, yeah, Canelo's not going to do that rematch. Not at all. I'm high on David Benavidez, too. I see real championship things in his future. Yeah, Jock, me too. I think he's the coldest at 168. And make sure y'all like this video, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be doing, I just got to lock in the date for the interview that I'm going to do with David Benavidez. And we're going to talk about him fighting Canelo and everything else. Canelo said he won't fight Mexican fighters. He wants to unify the belt. And I think that's messed up if Canelo does that. I know he said he doesn't want to, but if they're the ones with the belts, Canelo's not going to want to get the belts. Canelo wants to get he wants to unify the belts at super middleweight. And David Benavidez is going to get one of these belts. Jock said David Benavidez is a bull. You absolutely right. Yeah, Benavidez versus Smith would be good. Yeah, I think David Benavidez would be smart to fight Callum Smith next, because if he knocks him out, then that brings it to everybody's attention. Like, hey, he did something that Canelo wasn't able to do. Maybe this guy is official. And they'll start believing in Benavidez like I believe in him right now. Canelo versus Floyd too. Floyd retired. He's not going to fight no more. And Canelo's fighting at 168. Floyd don't fight. I don't think Floyd ever fought higher than 154 like Pat said. Let me see. Billy Joe Saunders would give him a lot of trouble. I got to watch more. Let me write Saunders down. I ain't been paying attention to Saunders. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. So I'm going to have to watch a couple of his fights and see what everybody talking about. He wasn't really on my radar. I've been slipping. Saunders, huh? All right, let me see. You seem to know your boxing subbed, homie. Hey, thanks, Jose. I appreciate you. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, like the video. Good looking out, Jose. Let me see. Sure, Benavidez still too young. That's the disadvantage that Benavidez has, is he's so young. He's 24, and he doesn't have experience against elite, like the elite of the elite. He's fought top notch. He fought some top level competitors. He knocked out Durrell. I think that was when he won his when he became the champ. But he hasn't fought like, I don't think we consider Durrell an elite fighter. Like, he's a champion, but not an elite fighter. So Benavidez has yet to fight an elite fighter. But that doesn't mean he can't beat him. He just hasn't had the opportunity yet because he only has 23 fights. Like, it's hard to get elite fights when you're you're still building your resume. You're still building your audience. Like, he doesn't have a huge following yet. Let me see. Benavidez still young. Shout out to Regina. I appreciate you. Let me see. Jock says, I'm from the Houston area. I know the Charlo family. Got love for Charlo, but I think Benavidez will beat Charlo. Oh, yeah. Benavidez will beat both of the Charlos. Well, I know. Okay, they fight at different weight classes. So I know Jermall Charlo fights at 160. He's a middleweight. Does the other one fight at super middleweight? I think the other one might fight at 168. I think you might be right. I think Benavidez will beat him. I think you're right. Let me see, Patrick. Is Earl Spence from your area too? Yeah, Earl Spence somewhere from out there in Dallas. I mean, not Dallas. I mean, Texas. I don't know what area, though, either, Pat. YG. MMA beats boxing. I like boxing better because I like when they do the stand-up in MMA, but I don't like when it goes to the ground. It gets boring. I don't like to see the wrestling part. Let me see. Jock. No, Earl Spence from Dallas. Oh, okay. From the Dallas area. Bet. Let me see, Gina. Everything is so easy now. The only person who could beat Canelo is a 175-pounder battle. Nah, I think David Benavidez. Y'all gotta watch some of David Benavidez's fights, man. Some of his fights is on YouTube. He'll make a believer out of you too. Jamal. Okay. Jamal. Jock's talking about Jamal. Is Jarmal or Jamal Charlo. Yeah, so I think that's the one that fights at super middle. And yeah, he's the one that he took a L already, right? They gave him a bad decision. It was actually a close fight that he lost though. It was a close fight. But yeah, that kind of derailed him a little bit. But yeah, I think Benavidez is the one right now. Battle rifle, okay. He wouldn't beat Canelo either. Oh, Battle, you don't think that David Benavidez could beat Canelo? This is why I think David Benavidez would beat Canelo, because he's a powerful enough puncher that would stop Canelo from coming forward. That's the first thing you do. When you guys consider like who could beat Canelo, you got to think that it's going to have to be somebody that could stop Canelo coming forward. So they got to have a high knockout percentage. I'm going by the analytics. David Benavidez meets that criteria. Number two, when you look at David Benavidez fights, look who he's fighting. He's fighting big dudes. They're all like his size. They're all like 6-footers. They're bigger stature guys. Canelo's like 5'9". So not only does David Benavidez have the power to keep Canelo from coming forward, he also has a big reach advantage. He has an advantage that Triple G didn't have. Triple G has the power to keep Canelo back, but he didn't have the reach on like a big or a sizable reach advantage to land good shots on the outside versus Canelo, because Canelo and Triple G have a similar reach. But David Benavidez checks off two of those boxes. He has the power to keep Canelo back, and then on top of that, he has a sizable reach advantage. So the fact that Canelo's not going to be able to get inside on him, he's going to get inside a little bit here and there, but the majority of the fight, David Benavidez would be able to keep him at bay. And then also, he has a reach to make Canelo suffer and feel damage from not being able to get on the inside. Let me answer these last questions so I can get off this live. I haven't ate breakfast yet. It's time for me to go eat. You're talking about Jermell, the 154-pounder. So he's 154. I thought one of them was super middleweight. I got to look at their weight class because I know Jamal is at 160. That's the one. Jamal Charlo is 31-0, and he's the one with the 22 KOs. I think Canelo would get both of those. Let me see. Battle. No, absolutely not. Give him a good fight, yes. Even though he has one of the best offenses in boxing, his defense is garbage. You're right. He's like the Houston Rockets, all offense, no defense. But he has such a size advantage that Canelo's not gonna be as effective. Like David Benavidez's power and reach advantage will neutralize a lot of Canelo's offense. So if David Benavidez fights him, even though David Benavidez doesn't have the best defense, Canelo's offense isn't going to look as good just because he's going to have to eat some real punches to get on the inside. Like he was able to get inside against Smith like nothing. He ate up that distance in the first 2 rounds because he didn't have to eat no real food to get inside. But David Benavidez is gonna give he's gonna give Canelo a whole Thanksgiving dinner if he try to come inside. He gonna have to eat some real food coming in there, and he's not gonna be coming inside as much. Just like against Triple G in the first fight, Canelo had to eat some real food, and Canelo stopped trying to come inside. He was just he wasn't going inside. He was fighting outside, and since Triple G didn't have a sizable reach advantage, it was an even fade fighting on the outside. But if Canelo has to fight on the outside against David Benavidez, and David Benavidez has a power and a reach advantage, Oh, it's going to be bad for Canelo. Let him sit on the outside with David Benavidez and see. You'll see. Okay. David Benavidez is polished at his young age. He got the whole arsenal, the jab, the straight right, the hooks. He got it all. Yeah, he could improve his defense. I agree with who said that? Battle. I agree that Benavidez could improve his defense, but offensively, he got it. He got it. And he got the power on top of it. And he got the reach advantage on top of it against most of the super middleweights, but definitely against Canelo. So that's the one I want to see. Nobody beats Canelo 168 or below. I think David Benavidez, Jermell is at 154, junior middleweight. Jamal is a middleweight, 160. Yeah, okay, you right about that. All right, man, I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Benavidez has no defense. Canelo would make it a quick fight. I disagree because Canelo's not powerful, not as powerful as super middleweight. And how do we know that? Because we just saw Callum Smith go the distance. Canelo hit him with everything, including the kitchen sink, and wasn't able to knock him out. So Benavidez is a way better fighter than Smith. So Canelo's not gonna knock out Benavidez. I know that's not what you think, Battle. Or no, who said that? The mailman? So you think Canelo couldn't knock out Smith, but he's going to knock out Benavidez? Watch, if the Benavidez is smart. If he's smart, he fights Callum Smith next, and he'll knock out Smith. But if Canelo couldn't knock out Smith, he's not going to be able to knock out Benavidez, point blank, period. Watch that. Hey, y'all be on the lookout for my upcoming interview with David Benavidez. I appreciate you. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Y'all stay blessed. Take care of yourself. Enjoy life. Take care of your family. And make sure y'all use all that social distancing and all that to stay healthy. Smith is a tested fighter. Benavidez hasn't been tested yet. You right about that, the mailman. He has no top 10 fighters in his resume. You right, but at 23 fights, like, not too many fighters have accomplished that on their resume yet. I'm going to have to look at Billy Joe Saunders. I'm going to look at his footage. I'm going to catch y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in, man. Y'all stay up. Stay blessed. Peace.